Okay guys, what I got here is what I call my Harley unloading and loading contraption or ramp. So I've tried to figure out how the hell I'm going to get it in the Sprinter without trashing it, breaking it, wrecking it, hurting myself. So what we have here is two Harbor Freight aluminum ramps. You'll see them, they're about 150 to 160 bucks a piece. I already had one because I was using it for my dirt bikes, as you can see in there. And inside the van is 3 bikes, the Harley's up front. So I wanted a safe way of getting the Harley in the van, or I guess you could use it for your pickup truck, of course. So I mated 2 of these aluminum 6-foot ramps from Harbor Freight. Now, I had, the key is these side pieces here where you can put your feet. I had this scrap aluminum for years from a previous project, and it happened to be 12-foot pieces, so it worked out perfectly. So I was able to put those on to tie the whole system together. Now, you may think, oh, that's kind of overkill, but I really wanted the foot placement. I needed the width so that I could have my feet go someplace, someplace to stand while I wheel the Harley in and out, because it's not, you know how scary it is when you have no place to put your feet. I just didn't want to take any chances of wrecking this Harley. As you know, they're expensive, and this is a street glide in there, and they're what, 850 pounds plus the rider. Let's call it 1,000 pounds easy, depending upon what you got. I'm sure it's over 1,000 pounds. So these ramps are 1,200 pound limits, but I didn't want to take any chances. So here's the tricks to building this. As I mentioned, 2 Harbor Freight ramps. You can do side rails. You could do them out of wood as well, I imagine, some 2x6s or 2x4s, but you got to have some place to put your feet that's safe. I was going to put some grip tape along here, but I didn't really need it. In the rain, you would definitely need it. This thing's deadly in the rain, so trying to unload in a wet situation, the aluminum is slick as crap. I did slide sideways a little bit on a light rain once, so we're trying to play it as safe as possible. So what I had to do is build what we call like a bridge abutment. I had to build something to put in the middle here, so I can show you what I got here. And I built it out of wood just because that's what I had laying around the house. And then I stuck everything together with a bunch of wing nuts, as you can see. And you can see how I wing nutted everything to make it quick. So this little angle piece, as you know, makes that leg, it keeps that leg from kicking out either way, and makes it incredibly strong. So you could probably put 4,000 pounds on this wooden abutment. And then I did a little safety thing here too, because these ramps tend to flex obviously real bad, and they're 1,200 pounds, but if you're real wheel sitting there and you're sitting on the bike, I figured you're right at the limit. So I decided to put a little safety strut in there, and I did a little safety strut down there too. That's just literally a sitting little post. And it catches on the hinge, as you can see, so it can't kick out on the hinge of the ramp. So you definitely want to, chain these things in. As you can see, I switched around some bolts, and I chained it in real good, because if you were accelerating, obviously, to get up the ramp, you've seen people do it on YouTube. They kick the ramp out from under them, and then the whole thing comes crumbling down. And I actually had a close call. So here's another trick. The truck is going to float. It's on its suspension, so you've got to firm up the ass end. So I used since I was bringing it with me anyway, my dirt bike lift, and you've got to get the spring out of your truck or van. So I put some wooden blocks on this jack here, regular dirt bike jack, and I jammed it up under the van to keep this thing from sponging down. Obviously, if the van kicks downward, if the van comes down, my bridge abutment does not come down. So you create this lip. And in my first experiment, which I knew was a little problem, I squished the suspension in the van, bringing the Harley up, and the ramp actually slid forward because it was sliding forward on my little abutment, because obviously it was teeter-tottering towards the van because the van was giving way with its suspension. So those are your tricks. You don't want to screw around. You got to do it right, or you're going to hurt yourself or screw up your very expensive motorcycle. So chain this damn thing in. I use a rubber pad under here for traction and grip and protect the van. And you could build this to suit your pickup truck, or you could make it adjustable, obviously. This was what I had, the materials I had at home laying around. I live far away from everything. So this is one way of doing this. The beauty of this is the whole thing I could disassemble and bring with me into the van. The 2 side rails, I would mate them together because they're basically, as you can see, they're I cut a 4x4 tube, I think it was, or 4.5 by 4.5 tube in half when I did my old project years ago, and that's what was left over. So you can take these side rails off and you can mate them together. I put some padding on them so they don't rattle the whole time, and I slid them into the van because the van's got lots of depth. And then you can fold these ramps in half, as you know, and I put padding between them and bungee corded them together and stacked them on top of each other. I also chained them so they could not slide forward and hit the Harley, and I put a through bolt through them. One of the through bolts that I use, I tied them all together so they were one piece. When I stored them all folded up in here, they fit nicely all in the middle here, and threw my little wood pieces, my little bridge abutment in there all at one time. And I was able to take this thing with me. Now it takes me 10-15 minutes to set it up and take it down, etc. But I guess I couldn't think of any other way that didn't cost a fortune. I mean, theoretically, the only extra materials I bought were some wing nuts and bolts and an additional Harbor Freight ramp. Everything else I had. So I hope this helps you guys. It's collapsible. It would fit in the back of a standard pickup truck, other than these long rails, as you know. But you could probably, you know, there's a lot of different variations on how you could do this. You could buy one steel I-beam too and run it down the middle to bring it all together. But this is a really nice gradual ramp that's safe for the Harley, and it has worked really well. After I fine-tuned those minor design details that I mentioned, you got to firm up your truck or van suspension-wise. You got to have, you know, some killer support because the damn things are heavy, as you know. Well, I hope that helps. I'll talk to you guys later.